Hey folks, this is Kelani. With BlizzCon just a month away, I can imagine the dev team has already been ramping up for quite a while now, getting as ready as they can for when their doors are blown wide open and we're all treated to all of the goodies that usually come with BlizzCon. New information about the future of all of Blizzard's games, and typically we get a pretty good picture of where World of Warcraft is headed over the next few months, if not longer. We have one major patch just over the horizon, which we already know quite a bit about, but I would expect for that specific puzzle to have all of its corners filled in, and the new raid, or at least some of the new content, might even be playable at BlizzCon. But I wouldn't be surprised if we were also given more information about where Battle for Azeroth is heading in general. Where do we go after 8.1? Will we eventually head down to Nazjatar, and what happens after the Alliance tries to sack the Horde's new base of operations? There's a lot of info that could come from BlizzCon, and now we have access to the BlizzCon schedule, we can see how it might be divvied up. Also, if you hadn't yet heard, our good friend, you think you do, but you don't, J. Allen Brack is being promoted to President of Blizzard, so congratulations to him. In his press release and message to the community, he mentioned that the company was working on more games than ever before in Blizzard's history, and that they're currently working on developing several new games, which is really exciting. We should also expect a few surprises to come out of BlizzCon this year. I think we might know what one of those surprises could be, but I'm really interested to see if any of those surprises end up being related to WoW. Sweeping changes to core systems, an entirely different story direction than what we expected. Azeroth gear dropping from Mythic Plus. Who knows what lies in store? So let's have a look at the different WoW panels that will be active throughout the 2 days of BlizzCon, because it's actually quite a few. The most important panel when it comes to the future of WoW is probably going to be the World of Warcraft What's Next panel. Pretty much every game gets a What's Next panel, so as more games are announced, that's going to be a pretty crammed schedule. The WoW's What's Next panel is actually the last of the 4 games this BlizzCon, which makes me think that there might not be a great deal to talk about. We're going to get a lot of info about patch 8.1 for sure, because that's not going to release before BlizzCon at this rate. We haven't seen a lot of different features on the PTR yet, and we all know how slow that entire process usually is. They might announce the patch day for 8.1 at BlizzCon, so that's something to look forward to, but we kind of already know a lot about what's going on in patch 8.1, so what exactly are they going to talk about? Well, we know the general story of the Siege of Zuldazar, or at least anyone who's been digging through the datamine stuff will know, so they might talk about that more publicly, and the events that that raid is going to lead into, or they might focus on the second half of patch 8.1, which seems to be all about the Crucible of Storms, some interesting questline through the old Shadow Priest artifact dagger, and ultimately lead us into the next chunk of the story. Seeing as we're delving under Stormsong Valley, I assume that's where we'll find the next key, which leads us to the next big bad, which a lot of people are anticipating to be Azshara. We've had a few appearances so far, most notably in Shrine of the Storm. We know we'll be facing her eventually, we just don't have any solid info on where or when. That might be what this panel ends on, so for this What's Next panel I would expect some solid details on patch 8.1 will release, some more info about the content coming later on, such as the Crucible of Storms raid and where that story continues, and then finish with a reveal of where we'll be heading after 8.1 is done and dealt with. I doubt we'll get too much info or really anything related to features in patch 8.1.5, as I don't think they'll want to skip over patch 8.1 entirely and start creating hype for a next patch when we haven't even got to play this one, but they'll want to give us a little nibble of the next carrot on a stick, just to make sure we know there's more to come. I would be very surprised if we don't end up in Nazjatar, working our way up to a raid that includes Queen Azshara. Perhaps the most exciting, or at least most interesting panel after the What's Next dealio is going to be one which is named Restoring History, Recreating WoW Classic, which kind of speaks for itself really. If you weren't aware yet, the very first demo of WoW Classic will be playable at BlizzCon, and for anyone who purchases the virtual ticket, they'll be able to download and play the very same demo. This demo is going to include one early zone from both the Horde and the Alliance, so we're finally going to have a chance to see how this entire project is shaping up. Bear in mind it's probably only going to be about 10 minutes of gameplay, but being able to actually see the game as they're creating it is going to be amazing. I wonder what changes they ended up making, if any, to the way the game is going to work. That question, and many others I'm sure, will probably be answered in this panel as the dev teams talk about the struggles of rebuilding a game that at this point is over a decade old. I'm sure that little puzzle is both very fun, but also very frustrating. I hope they're going to be quite open about the entire process, with some potential timelines for when certain milestones could be reached. I wonder if they would release the game as one entire package, or add on certain elements as patches later on. We don't necessarily need all of the raids in the game from the get-go, but then it wouldn't really be the complete classic experience. This panel should be a treat for anyone seriously interested in playing Classic, or anyone even slightly interested. I'm really curious how the entire Classic idea is going to progress after this demo. What if a vast majority of players hate what Classic ends up being? That could be one of the reasons they're doing a demo to begin with, to gauge overall interest in the game as they have it pieced back together. If this demo flops entirely, I wonder if they would ever cancel the Classic project. On the flip side, if everyone jumps on board, kind of like how 2007scape took off like a rocket, I wonder what that would mean for the future of the game. I could be reading way too much into it, but I'm really excited both for the opportunity to play Classic as Blizzard envisions it, but also to see how the community reacts to the demo. I kind of wish they would open up the demo for everyone to play instead of just virtual ticket holders. That seems a little bit lame. I can imagine a lot of players would be very interested in the demo, but seeing the virtual ticket requirement makes it kind of look like a buy-to-play experience, even though the ticket offers way more than just the demo. I would hope if you're interested in playing WoW Classic, you might also be interested in watching some of the BlizzCon panels, but that's going to be a very expensive demo if that's all you're interested in. At least we can buy the tickets with gold, though. You could look at this another way, though. This is the first time that a playable early version of any game has been made available to anyone besides the actual attendees of BlizzCon. They could have just dealt with this the same way that they have with early builds of everything else, have it playable at BlizzCon and call it a day. With this demo, anyone with a spare $50 can hop in and play, and enjoy the stream at the same time, I would hope. And then the other panel, which always produces quite a bit of buzz, is the live Q&A, which is usually hit or miss with pretty much every question. Some questions are really well thought out, give us answers to some finer details that might have been excluded from the actual presentation panels, and open up a little bit of discussion about some of the content coming soon. Other questions make you wonder if people actually listen to the presentations in the first place. Either way, we typically get a few good questions, so it's a panel I always look forward to watching because there can always be a little chunk of information that shines a spotlight on various issues. They're probably the most exciting panels on offer, for me anyways, but there's also a whole variety of others to cover quite a few other topics. There's a panel called Voice of War, Horde vs Alliance, which will have all sorts of voice actors present to go through how bringing this war-torn world to life works. There's a panel all about Battle for Azeroth cinematics, where hopefully we'll see a few new ones for the story in patch 8.1. There's one which is going into detail about sound effects in WoW and creating an immersive experience. Another panel talking about the world creation process, which could be really interesting. It's kind of the level building equivalent for WoW, and I wonder if they will touch on Classic at all, or just stick to BFA. And then if you're still hungry for more WoW panels, there's also an art panel, so quite a lot of panels focused on WoW, which is actually kind of surprising. I don't think there was this many last year. That's a lot of discussion time being set aside to talk about how the World of Warcraft is being built from various different angles. Hopefully they're all exciting to watch, but I'm still a little worried about our What's Next panel being the last one on show. Hopefully BFA isn't already becoming an afterthought for Blizzard. So if WoW's What's Next panel is fourth, what's first? I'm glad you asked, and while it might not have much to do with the World of Warcraft, I'm incredibly excited to see what comes out of this little section of BlizzCon, because the Diablo What's Next panel is first. This slot is usually reserved for the big announcements. Last year, this slot was given to the World of Warcraft team to announce Battle for Azeroth, so I would expect to see a pretty big announcement relating to Diablo. At this point, I wouldn't expect it to be a simple expansion or add-on for Diablo 3, or even a new season and new gear and whatever else Diablo 3 has been doing for these last few years. This slot means big Diablo news. Personally, I'm hoping for a new game, either Diablo 4 or just something as big. This could end up being the most disappointing part of BlizzCon if it's another Diablo 3 port announcement. They already ported to the Switch, where else can they go? But this could be one of the surprises that we were talking about earlier, and I hope it's a big one. I'm also really interested in what these new games Blizzard is working on could be. They've been posting jobs for work on mobile platforms as well as for developers with experience in the first-person shooter market. The opening ceremony could answer all of these questions. I wonder how many new things we're going to get from a new Diablo game, a new mobile game, maybe a new FPS game, more info on Overwatch with a few heroes probably, Heroes of the Storm stuff, and of course a good chunk of info and hopefully content for the World of Warcraft. I'm a little sad that I won't be attending in person. I thought this might be the first BlizzCon I can actually go to, but alas, those tickets do sell out fast. Maybe next year we'll have a few cool surprises in store as well. Either way, I'm pretty excited. How about you? What are you most looking forward to hearing from BlizzCon 2018? New content for Battle for Azeroth? Maybe some Azerite armor changes? Or does the potential of a new Diablo game intrigue you a little bit more? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to join these lovely guys and gals, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.